This has Rangers fans very concerned, as a new report from an insider has revealed a major update on Will Coolie and other free agents around the league that the New York Rangers have interest in. And we now know that Chris Drury is planning to be very aggressive this offseason with all of his decisions, as he has been in the past. But things are about to get crazy. We're going to break down all of these new reports and details in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. So go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and you get to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the Rangers. But Bret, let's get right into it. We have some new updates as it pertains to what the Rangers are going to do with Will Coolie. We'll get into that first. And the fact that they're going to be very aggressive this offseason with both their own players and offer sheets, which I think is very interesting and tricky because they actually have to make a trade in order for that to happen. I'll get into that as well. But I wanted to bring this up first, that Arthur Staple has a couple things here. We're going to gloss over a few because we've already touched on Zibanejad. Doesn't look like he's going to move from New York. He's probably going to stay with the team. But in, this order, essentially, the Rangers have to look at getting rid of Carson Soucy. Now, they brought him in at last year's trade deadline. I said on the channel it was kind of a good move for the time. Then they ended up not playing him at all, and now he's just a $3.2 million rock, essentially sitting on the team that they have to move off of at this point. And this kind of plays into it, too. Arthur Staple is actually reporting that Will Coolie is likely to get $3.5 million from the Rangers. He wants to stay in New York. We'll get into that in a second as well. But in dumping Carson Soucy, you essentially, because he makes $3.25 million, and this is the last year of his contract, you essentially pay for Will Coolie with this salary cap dump, and you get to keep the $15 million of cap space that you currently have. So what do you make of this? First of all, I think that's a great contract, like really, really good value for Will Coolie. First of all, if that does get done, we'll get into the offer sheet stuff in a second, but what do you think of the Will Coolie stuff? And you're going to take a loss on Carson Soucy, that's for sure. I'm sure somebody will take him, but you're definitely taking a loss there.
Yeah, well, you're definitely going to take a loss there, and I love your reference when it comes to Carson Soucy as a rock, because I actually referred to Keandre Miller a few episodes ago as a traffic cone. And listen, Carson Soucy was much, much worse out there. The guy was a complete disaster, a complete disgrace when he was on the ice. The guy had his worst season in the NHL. This was a big physical defenseman that, a lot of Rangers fans, including you and myself, believe that maybe this guy could help the Rangers out at the deadline, and it just didn't work out that way. He was everything not as advertised. He was absolutely awful. And look, this would be great for the Rangers because they need to lock up Will Coolie ASAP. You and I both share that belief that Will Coolie needs to be a part of this Rangers team moving forward. We've spoken about a lot of free agents and a lot of possible trade candidates, but there is a player on the Rangers roster in Will Coolie that needs to be part of that movement going forward, because this is a 23-year-old that is on the rise, really only has 2 seasons in the NHL, and last year he had 21 points, and this most recent season he more than doubled that and had 45 points, and both years he's been very durable. This is a guy that's 6'4", over 200 pounds, and he's kind of similar to Chris Kreider. So I think with Chris Kreider getting traded here, you could see Will Coolie have even more of an impact because he's a big physical forward like Kreider. He could get dirty in front of the net and put some pucks in there. And like I said, this guy, the Rangers are emphasizing physicality, speed, and snarl. And I think Will Coolie has all 3 of those traits. And the Rangers need to lock him up because, he's coming off a contract that just paid him 6 figures, $828,000 to be exact, which is obviously a steal for the way he played this past season. But the Rangers need to give this guy a bridge deal, and just referring to that $3.5 million price tag that Arthur Staple was referring to, that is a bridge deal right there. That is a $3 to $4 million deal for 2 to 3 years to reward Coolie for his play this past season. You don't want to jump from 6 figures to $6 million after we only really saw him do it 1 season. So while I do believe he's going to continue to grow and get better and become a reliable second line option for this Rangers team, you need to give him a bridge contract, not a long-term contract just yet, because as we saw with Alexei Lafreniere, Darius, it kind of came back to bite the Rangers in the butt. So we'll see if he can turn it around. But I do have faith and believe Will Coolie is going to continue to improve here.
And like you said, he had a career year last year. Again, I don't care personally if it's a long-term deal or a short-term deal. Just get it done. Even if it is a a bridge deal, long-term, whatever it is. I do think that you are correct in that it's probably going to be a short-term, like a bridge deal at that dollar amount, and then they'll pay him when they have more salary cap space down the road. In a couple of years, whatever it ends up being in terms of the term. But that's a steal for this player. He had a career year last year. He's a physical force, like you mentioned. We all know what he brings to the table. As soon as JT Miller came to the team, it was like, oh, I'm going to start playing like that guy. Like, he was just throwing his body around. He was awesome to watch. So the other thing I think is very interesting is that there's a couple other reports from Frank Saravalli as well that if Coolie can net half a dozen more goals next season, which I think that he can, by the way. Like, he's been great, and the way that he was playing at the end of last season, like, he's going to be a really good player. He'll be in the $6 million AAV range or more. So it wouldn't be crazy, a crazy reach for him to think that at some point with the cap continuing to increase that he would be at that level. Now, again, like you were saying, it could be a bridge deal in terms of 3.5. That would be a great deal. Even 4. I've been saying 4 on the channel for a while. But there is a lot out there that if he does reach offer sheet territory, it could be $6 million that somebody offers him, and then the Rangers are in a lot of trouble. So to wrap this up before we move on to something else, another interesting topic with this team, Coolie, you got to get this done in the next week or week and a half, because if he reaches offer sheet territory, if you can't get it done over the course of the next 2 weeks, you make it to the draft, free agency, he's still not signed, another team could offer him that, then you're going to want to have to, you might have to claim him or match that, and then you're paying him way more than you should have been. So they got to get this done in the next week, I think. And to me, it's a no-brainer. Of course, you want to re-sign this player. Let's get it done. So at least you know what the rest of the outlook kind of looks like. But Bret, I wanted your thoughts on this as well, because there's a lot going on. Frank Saravalli as well saying that there are big changes on the way. There's more moves coming, and that Elliot Friedman also said the Rangers may target teams that don't like paying bonuses to their players with bonus-laden offer sheets. So they're going to be very aggressive in terms of offer sheets as well. It is pretty interesting to me. Again, their plan, we've seen this before from Vince Mercogliano. They want to get more aggressive. They want to get younger. They want to get faster. We know that's the plan. But from NY or Louis, they have $15 million of cap space right now. They'll keep that if they move out Soucy and then sign Will Coolie or close to that number. You might have to move out Mika. I don't think that's very likely at this point, but they can still somewhat, get pretty aggressive via trade, via free agency, via offer sheets. And I think with the offer sheet thing, it's very interesting this year because there's a lot of disgruntled young stars across the league, like JJ Peterka, like we touched on. So what's your thoughts on this? They still have a lot of moves that they can make, and I feel like they, do you think they should be more aggressive via maybe trade? Is it an offer sheet they should do? Is it through free agency? What do you think?
Well, I believe, and I love the layout here because I really believe that when it comes to those offer sheets and paying those bonuses that other teams are not going to want to pay, that's why Will Coolie is so essential to get done ASAP, because if the Rangers get into this cat and mouse game where they're having to pay Will Coolie more than he's worth and all that extra money, that's going to make it much more difficult moving forward when it comes to being aggressive and offering those offer sheets with bonuses. The Rangers are not going to have the luxury to do that if they're not able to secure Will Coolie. So while I am of the mindset that the Rangers need to be aggressive, they need to look via the free agent market and trade market, the draft, all avenues to improve this roster. They have to build from the inside out. And what I mean by the inside out is they need to take care of their own that deserve it. Obviously, Carson Soucy, the writing is on the wall for him. He will not be back with the Rangers. And if he is, it's a complete disaster. But Will Coolie need to lock him up ASAP. And to be quite honest with you, Darius, the type of player that Will Coolie is, he embodies everything the New York Rangers should look like, should be moving forward. We've talked about JT Miller as well. Make that man captain, lock up Will Coolie, and start playing that physical, fast style of hockey, because like you said, when JT came in here, Will Coolie turned it up another level. It's like he followed his lead. So if our captain plays like that, the rest of the team is going to follow suit. So the Rangers definitely need to be aggressive here, Darius, no doubt about it. We've talked extensively. The Jason Robertsons of the world, the Marco Rossi's of the world, JJ Peterka. These are all guys that are young, ascending, fast, elite hockey players. They could really put the puck in the net, go north to south, like nobody else. But like I said, the Rangers, we got to start inside out. Get Will Coolie done, and then go from there. And to be honest with you, I know the Mika stuff has gotten quiet here, Darius, but like I always say, you have to be a fool if you think Chris Drury does not still have that option open. He did not completely close the door on that. I know Sullivan flew out to Sweden and whatever it may be, but I'm not buying it in the case that Mika's 100% safe here, because Chris Drury will lay down the hammer if he has to, and he will do whatever it takes. If he really wants Mika out, Darius, he will convince him to leave. You know that. Rangers fans know that. So I am not taking that possibility off the table. And if that happens, then boy, we're going to have a fun offseason, because then we're talking about Jason Robertson plus, maybe Jason Robertson and Rossi, maybe Jason Robertson and Peterka, who knows? And then next offseason with the cap situation, things could get really fun here for the Rangers, Darius. But let's start at phase one. Bring Will Coolie back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was well said. And I think that, if Mika Zibanejad is moved, like you said, once, he makes a decision, Chris Drury, this is, it happens. He gets it done. He finds everything, any resource that he has available to him to get that done. So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a conversation. I'm sure Mika at this point in time doesn't want to leave, but could be a conversation. But like you said, lock up Will Coolie. I've been very vocal about how a lot of people talk about, the Sam Bennett's, the Brad Marchands of the world. You have to go acquire them. You have to sign them in free agency. You should be more concerned about finding Brad Marchand or Sam Bennett in your own organization. And I feel like the Rangers have a really, really good player with a similar skill set in Will Coolie, and obviously we know what JT Miller brings to the table. So if they can get back into the playoffs, I feel like those two guys specifically can actually be difference makers. So get Will Coolie signed. And before we wrap up, on Will Coolie, my sense is that he won't be signing anywhere other than New York. It doesn't sound like a deal is close at the moment, but I believe that Coolie wants to stay, and there's confidence something will get done. And one last thing to wrap up from Elliot Friedman. They don't have a ton of salary cap room yet, but they seem to want everyone to realize they're prepared to be aggressive. Now, what does that mean exactly? Could it be Zibanejad? Could it be an offer sheet? We don't know exactly. I think we have an idea of what Chris Drury wants to do, maybe Gavrikov as well. But one thing's for sure, when the floodgates open, as soon as the Stanley Cup is awarded, Chris Drury is going to be in the mix. He's going to have his hands in all of the cookie jars, and I think that's pretty exciting for Rangers fans, because he's trying to make this team competitive. But let us know how you feel in the comments. This has some fans worried for sure. They got to lock up Will Coolie. I love Will Coolie. Got his jersey behind me. Mention it like almost every video, but hope they get it done. Let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.